Hello, everybody. Welcome to Future Tech Talk episode 41, I think. It is a beautiful day down here at the ballpark. Spring is in the air. We're almost in April of 2024. Who would have thought we'd make it this far? Why don't we start with a little Midjourney talk and how it seems like whatever this service does and whatever AI is able to do, it's never going to be enough for some people. I get a lot of comments on my YouTube channel. Let's take it back like 6 months ago. I'd get a lot of comments saying, oh, Midjourney just needs to be able to create a consistent style. Midjourney just needs to be able to create a consistent character in different generations. Well, the AI came out with a consistent style reference feature. And then it came out recently with a character reference feature. Now, these don't work perfectly, but they do work. And then you get comments, I'm assuming from those same people, saying things like, oh, Midjourney just needs a permanent object reference, a consistent branding feature, and then it will be good enough. Like, no matter what new feature comes out, it's as if people forget that that's what they wanted and they always want the next thing. Now, I don't want to paint a broad brush across everybody who has opinions because clearly I'm just like generalizing what the user experience is like for most people. But I think it's true that no matter what people claim they want at any given stage of development, it's not necessarily what they actually want. It's just the first thing that comes to their mind. I don't know if that really makes sense, but I think this is one of the most difficult parts of listening to an audience. How do you separate good advice and good suggestions from the ability to easily complain and just, give in to your most basic instincts on what you want? Here's an example. People have been claiming that the moderation and the filters on Midjourney they're just way too strong, right? You can't create bikini shots because that's just one step too close to nudity and whatever. Maybe you think there should be artistic nudity in Midjourney and other art generators. My point is that if you listen to those people and you say, okay, we'll allow you some artistic nudity, as soon as you allow that, I'm pretty sure that those same people would then complain it's not naked enough. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's the whole argument of give an inch and they'll take a mile. If you ever give in to people who complain, that just reinforces that complaining works, and therefore it will breed more complaints because people will see, hey, you just have to bug them enough and they'll listen. Which is why I really respect Midjourney for holding their ground on some of their beliefs, because I really think that would happen. If you allowed nudity, you would just get people complaining that it wasn't graphic enough or something along those lines. I really don't think you could ever make people happy. And because you can't make people happy, you're just going to create this sort of vortex of complaints and feedback that isn't for the greater good. It's very personalized and oh, this is what I want. So everybody should have to deal with that. I think creating gore and horror is sort of the same way. If you allowed bloody, scary images to be generated, the chances of you making those type of people happy is very slim. Those type of people who want the bloody, gory images will probably always want it more bloody and gory. So at what point do you have to say no to them? I think in Midjourney's case, they just cut it off right at the start. We're saying no from the very beginning. But I'm bringing up this whole idea of complaining and feedback and this sort of development relationship with their audience, because even though version 6 of Midjourney right now is so powerful, it's so cool, you can do so much with it, as soon as version 7 rolls around, I think the audience is in for a big wake-up call, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be a step back in terms of features. The way these models work, at least the way Midjourney works, is that every time they make a new model, they basically have to recreate each feature from scratch. Now, granted, they've already created that feature once, so they sort of know how to do it. But that doesn't mean it's not going to take time. They're still going to have to do it. So when version 7 drops, let's say in 2 months from now, maybe sooner. 6 weeks, I'll take a guess. I don't think it's going to have style reference. I don't think it's going to have character reference. It's definitely probably not going to have character reference. And this is one of the main philosophies that Midjourney struggled with last year. Do we hold off on releasing an update so that we can have every feature available in that update? Or do we release the update as soon as we can and then continue to just add features as we move along? That's sort of what happened with version 6. They were waiting and waiting, trying to get all the features packaged in, and it took them like 9 months, and they didn't even complete their goal. So they released version 6, and then they added style reference, and then they added character reference. I think I just really wonder how the audience, the users, are going to react to an update that is, it's not a downgrade because it's going to be better, but it's going to be like a bare bones upgrade. I don't really know how to describe it. It's an improvement, but you have less capabilities with it. It sort of reminds me of this like phenomenon in video games where a sequel to a popular video game will come out with less features than the first game. And everyone's like, what do you already had a really good game with all the fun stuff. How could you make a new game without the fun stuff? And I don't think I ever really understood it. It honestly just seemed like incompetence until you follow something like Midjourney, and it sort of makes sense that if you're going to make a sequel, it doesn't mean you can just bring in all the old stuff you had. You have to recreate it. And I guess it's just not that easy. I don't know. But also, video games take like 6 years to create, 4 to 6 years. And then they come out and they're not even fully functioning. They often have bugs and they don't work in most ways. Whereas AI, I don't know, takes between like 6 and 9 months at the most. Normally it's a little quicker than that. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so hopeful for the future of AI, is because it should just speed up the process for everything. I saw a quote recently, and I can't remember where it was. I don't think I saved it, but it was essentially saying like, hey, I spoke to some pretty prominent people with good jobs at these different organizations, and I asked them like, how has AI affected their life? I think it was referring to GPT specifically. And the answer was, well, I just don't get stuck anymore. And I read that and was like, oh, yeah, that's completely it. If I didn't have GPT, I wonder how long it would have taken me to build a YouTube channel and to build a digital course and digital products and handle all this business stuff on the side, from like building a website to taxes and stuff. And it's like, you could Google, but when you're Googling something, you're really just hoping there's a Reddit post with your exact problem. That's sort of like the best possible scenario. But with GPT, it knows what you're asking for. It helps you out with normal language. Like it's speaking to you. It's not jot notes that someone wrote down 4 years ago claiming to solve a problem they had at the time. Like, if you're trying to figure out how to troubleshoot Adobe Premiere or Photoshop, you're really banking on old forum posts from like the last 6 years. And the questions are usually never worded correctly. They just might have one keyword that you're also searching for. But with GPT, it's hard to get stuck. These things just help you out so much. And they're probably going to get better, right? I wonder what the most helpful AI is going to look like in 3 years. Is it going to come from Samsung and Apple? Is it going to be in your phone? Is it going to come from Microsoft and Apple? Is it going to be in your computer on your desktop so that it can sort of see your desktop and everything you're doing? And then in the same way, you could just like say, hey, blah, 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 and trigger the voice assistant. Could you press a button, have the AI calibrate what it's looking at, and then you say to it like, hey, how do I do this? And then it would see that you're in Photoshop, and it would, I don't know, could it highlight in real time on your desktop, like push this button, push this button? Because right now you have to go through GPT. You have to go through a website, or I guess you could have the app on your phone. But what is that going to look like in 3 years? I don't think we're going to have implants in 3 years where you just talk to it in your head. I really hope not. I don't think I'll ever go for that. Is it going to be augmented reality where you're wearing a headset? Not a headset. You're wearing like earbuds and glasses of some sort. Or geez, maybe it is a pin on your lapel. Maybe it's a necklace and it can just, I don't know. But is it just going to be on you and it's always watching what you're doing? So that way it can help you and it can just talk to you in your ear? I don't know. But I feel like it has to get off of the website. It just, in your opinion, where would the AI have to live for you to use it the most? I'm going to say I think it needs to be desktop based. It's got to be operating system based, where, you know, instead of looking in your file directory for an old picture of yours, you type in the search, but you're talking to an AI and then it does the work for you. It goes and finds what you're looking for. Now, I think there's a case to be made that that's not a good thing. Delegating that sort of mental responsibility onto a piece of software, an AI, will mean that you will lose that ability to do it yourself just because you won't be practicing it. And I saw a recent article or study, something along those lines, that implied GPT was harming the memory, like memory retention of students. And I thought, like, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense. If you offload a muscle, just pretending memory is a muscle, you're going to lose that muscle. If you offloaded your legs for assistance of any kind, you're going to lose the muscles in your legs. Like, you literally won't be able to walk after a certain point of not using it yourself. And I think I've talked about this before, but I've experienced this directly with directions, driving somewhere or finding something. Knowing that I have a GPS on my phone, I honestly no longer have a good sense of, it's not the right way of saying it, but I no longer have a good sense of direction from myself, from my own brain. Now, I don't mean north, south, east, west. Yes, I'm not going to get lost in a city. It's not that kind of thing, but it is, hey, I drove to this place once. Normally, that's all I would need. Like when I was younger, I don't know, 15 years ago, if I drove somewhere once, like I could drive there again and again. It was no problem. My brain just adapted it. It learned that route. But now, I honestly need a GPS to get somewhere that I've been like 10 times if it's a certain distance away. Like if I have to drive an hour to a cottage or a city, you know, down the highway, I need a GPS to do that. Like my brain no longer has access to those internal maps. It doesn't record it the same way because I know that I have a GPS on my phone and I no longer like need to use that memory bandwidth on plotting a route. And I know I have a buddy of mine who doesn't use GPS because he doesn't want to lose that ability. And I get it, but I always come back to this one argument, and I try to be a logical person where I take my opinion out of the way and I just say, okay, if reality is this, then my response to reality should be this. And I'd like to hear where you fall in this argument. Yes, I agree that it's bad to offload your memory onto something else like GPS or an AI. But if I have a GPS in my pocket, why would I ever need to remember where to go? And I know some people might say like, oh, you might not always have a GPS in your pocket. I'm like, yes, but for now, I do. And I can remember being in grade school, like grade 4, teachers saying, hey, you have to do the math by hand. You won't always have a calculator on you. Well, they were wrong about that. There really is no reason to do math the long way because calculators are so abundant. They're on your phone. They're everywhere. Now, I'm not saying you can count on having a GPS, on having a signal forever, but what if you can? Like, that's the logic that I get caught up on. Like, yes, GPT causing memory degradation in a human is terrible, but what type of things are they forgetting? If they could easily be found again through the use of GPT or Google for that matter. If you can just look up the information, how important was it for you to remember the information? Like when's the last time you memorized a phone number? That's a real good question. Google and contact lists have absolutely put away the need for you to ever remember 7 or more consecutive digits. Does that mean it's not important to know a phone number? No, but it means that you could find the phone number. So how important is your memory regarding like 18th century history if you can just look it up? And again, I don't think that's my opinion. Like, I'm trying to approach it logically. Like, if you can get the answer, do you need the answer yourself? I don't know. I saw a video of someone using GPT's voice feature where you can talk to GPT but have it speak back to you. But the crazy thing was that this person said, can you please use ums and ahs in your response? So if you were reading this, you wouldn't really think anything of it. But when it's played through GPT's voice, it sounds so real. Like that little bit of human inflection, that little bit of human uncertainty just written into the script can cause these AIs to reach an entirely new level of like, whoa, to the point where like, it's comically easy to mimic a human for these machines. They're going to do it so well, and if they ever try to trick you, if they ever wanted to hide their nature, they could do it so easily. You think robot callers are a problem now? Wait till the most charismatic salesperson is on the other line and they're fumbling with their words a little. Maybe they interrupt themselves and go on tangents, and you think that's a human, but you realize it was just written into the script. Okay, so I found the clip, and this person asked GPT to explain the plot of Inception. This is from user TastyFlounder9402. Sounds like a bot themselves. But listen to this.
Absolutely. So, Inception, it's this pretty mind-bending film by Christopher Nolan. So the core idea is about entering people's dreams to, steal or plant ideas. Leonardo DiCaprio, he plays this guy Cobb, who's like super skilled at this dream sharing tech, but he's got some heavy personal baggage, involving his wife Mal, and that kind of haunts him throughout the movie. So Cobb gets this kind of impossible job offer from this guy Saito to perform an inception, which is like planting an idea in someone's mind without them knowing. It's supposed to be super hard, right? But Saito dangles this carrot in front of Cobb, promising to clear his criminal record, allowing him to return to his kids in the US, which obviously Cobb can't resist. The team Cobb puts together, they're a mix of experts like Arthur, who's his right-hand man, Ariadne, a young architect who designs the dreamscapes, and a few others. They target this guy Fisher to plant the idea to dismantle his father's empire. The thing is, the movie dives into these layers of dreams, which is like a dream within a dream within.
So that was like 96% perfect. There was like a few moments where you could sort of hear the robot misunderstand what a human would sound like. But just like a few moments in a 2-minute video. You can even hear the robot, I'm just going to refer to it as a robot. You can hear it breathing in to speak. Now, maybe that just comes from the training data of the voice, but like, oh wow, that's special. And asking it to use words like and ahs, pausing, you realize that it's able to capture the uncertainty that most people talk with. I think you could hear it in my voice all the time. Whenever you're talking to someone, you don't really know what you're saying most of the time. You're not usually giving a lecture or a deposition in front of a judge. You're just kind of casually thinking and then relaying those thoughts through your voice, which means you have a lot of built-in uncertainty to sort of reflect the fact that you're having a conversation and that anything you say can be scrutinized, and it's okay to scrutinize because you're showing the cracks in your thoughts and allowing other people to sort of, I'm going to go out on a limb with this metaphor, but you use those cracks as rock climbing. I don't know. You're letting the other person in the conversation, sort of play on the wall of your thoughts as you speak with uncertainty. when you speak with clarity and stoic confidence, you're not really allowing for any play to go on. There's really no back and forth. It's much more of a dictation. And I think GPT can sound like that normally. But all you have to do is ask for a little human spice, and then you don't know who the hell you're talking to. Ooh, man. And I've become so cynical. Well, not become. I've been this way for a while. You know how some podcasts will have like, hey, listeners, call in, tell us your question, and they get to it on the show. Some of these call-ins, at least for a while now, I've at least suspected to not be real situations. Some of them have been a little too crazy for what you'd expect from a regular human, but Florida man exists. Crazy things can happen, so maybe the calls are legit. But how long until you get these fake calls literally written and performed by GPT and nobody will know the difference? And then a good question is like, does it matter? Do you care if your favorite podcast host was responding to something that never happened? Is their response the most important thing, just the idea of content itself? Or were you really invested in the fact that they were probably helping a real person? I don't know. I have a feeling that the content is going to be more important to most people. And maybe I can bring this up touching back on last week when I was going over the Sam Altman, Lex Friedman interview, and I was saying how Sora itself isn't the problem, but it's what Sora means for every other piece of real media. That's the problem. And I wanted to elaborate on that and say that people being critical of what they see is probably a good thing. However, that means that some people will never accept the truth, even if they see a video of it. And that's a problem. Because I saw some comments on a video, I think it was the Kate Middleton thing, where some people thought that her ring was disappearing in between frames, and then they were pointing to that, saying like, hey, look, this was all AI. That's not even her in the video. And it's like, I think if you looked a little closer, you can still see the ring. It just sort of gets like rotated on her finger, so it looks a little funny. Whatever, maybe you could say that it was debunked and that is a real video of Kate. But my point is that even if it's debunked, and even if you're looking at a real video, there is a portion of people who will never believe it. They'll think that an AI did it. And that cannot be good for society. You already have people mistrusting the news. You have people who don't believe influencers. But these same people are not going to trust any single video about anything. There could literally be, I don't want to get too real with it, so let's just stick with an alien invasion, something that's pretty far-fetched, but maybe it could happen. There could literally be an alien invasion, getting attacked by UFOs, and people, a few hours away might not believe it actually happened. If you didn't witness it yourself in person, again, there's going to be a subset of people that will just claim it was AI. And I think that's the big problem with Sora. You're like strengthening the argument of the most conspiratorial people. And that can't be a good thing. You can't give them more ammo to not only like be paranoid, but to share that paranoia. Even if it's warranted, it's not good to share that in like a digital space. It can't be good. I don't know. It's tough. And speaking of Sora, they, I guess, released access to some artists in the past couple of months. Apparently the GPU power it takes to run this program is insane. But they've given some people access to it. And there was this amazing little short film of a guy with a balloon head, a yellow balloon head. And it was played off like a metaphor for someone having like a fragile head full of air, something like that. I don't really want to dissect the message too much, but the point is that the short film was really good. It's like 2 minutes long, but it's like a solid proof of concept that type of video, that type of message, that type of commercial, these really creative endeavors can be created all artificially now. You don't need a production crew to do any of this. Now, my hope is that production crews are going to take it upon themselves to learn this technology so that they're still the ones to make this type of work. And I will say that, like, I'm jealous of artists who can focus in on one idea and create a little short film like that. Because in all honesty, I don't think using AI is that fun. I think it's pretty mind-numbing to write the same prompt over and over again, hoping for a different result, knowing you will get a different result. And, you know, it's like playing a slot machine. Like you sit there and you just pull the lever. Hey, maybe this one will be the jackpot. Granted, you win a lot more at the AI slot machine than you do in real life, but creating with it, it's not that fun. Like, I've dabbled in some projects whenever I get a creative burst and I'll work on it for a couple of hours. But, like, it's not fun enough for me to come back to it the next day, like, for sure, like, oh, I'm going to finish this thing. Like, no, I just like playing around with different ideas. But that's really the way my brain works. Like, I just need to chip away, and eventually these small ideas turn into bigger things. But when you have limitless possibilities, literally you can create anything with AI. How do you buckle down and just create one thing? I think that really takes a lot of discipline. And maybe jealousy is not the right word. I think it's envious. I think it's envy. I am envious of an artist who could take, you know, a week or two and create that short film. I wonder if the voiceover was made by AI as well. It was really well performed, almost as if a professional actor was the voice. But I know that doesn't need to be true at all. Like, I had this idea for a movie trailer, because that's basically all you can create with AI at this point. Well before Sora, is just like you take these static images and you add a little bit of movement to them, combine that with a voiceover and some sound effects and music, you can create the concept of a trailer. And I liked my idea. I was playing around with it. But yeah, it's really just not that fun to work on. It's not that fun to scroll through 49 terrible generations to find the one good one. It's a little impressive. It's interesting, but I don't think it's fun. Maybe that's why I like Midjourney so much. Maybe it's the most fun AI to use. And then when they add video eventually, maybe it will be fun to create with. I don't know. What do you think about the term synthetic art rather than AI generated? YouTube has new guidelines for using AI in your videos, and they use the word synthetic art over and over and over again, which leads me to believe that that term is going to pick up steam in articles and in guidelines, and that we'll see that in universities' curriculum soon. Not the word AI generated, but synthetic material. Do you think that will help or hurt AI artists if they start calling themselves synthetic artists? It will probably help them. AI just has some negative connotation. But isn't that so funny how human nature works? You just change the name of something, even if it's the exact same thing, and you can change the perception of it. And maybe I'll just talk about this out loud. Right now, YouTube requires you to have a message pop up on your video if you've used AI to create it, if you've synthetically created anything in it. But I don't know if that applies to my channel. Based on the guidelines, it's much more directed at, like, have you created something that looks real? Have you made somebody say something that they haven't? It's much more targeted at deepfakes and, like, misrepresenting reality. That's when you want the little icon to pop up and say, hey, this video contains synthetic media. But I don't think that applies to my channel, because my videos are about using the AI to create the synthetic material. Like, I don't think anyone would watch a Photoshop tutorial thinking that anything in the tutorial was real. I don't think anyone watching a Midjourney tutorial on photorealism would get confused about it being real. Does that make sense? Like, I really don't think it applies to my channel. I mean, not that I really care if that icon popped up, but I don't think that's what the guidelines are for. I really don't know, but as always, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you're thinking, where your head's at in regards to where everything is moving just 3 months into 2024. I hope you're doing well. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Peace.